Hello, today I want to tell you about my city, the city of demons, Yekaterinburg. The name The City of Demons is given by one of the most popular TV hosts in Russia. That's the most opposition-minded city in the country. It's constantly trashed on TV in propaganda shows. They talk about it with hate and contempt. And here you often see graffiti with a certain kind of message. Messages I cannot talk about because I don't want to end up in Gulag. So let's get started right away. Why is it called the City of Demons? TV host Vladimir Solovyov called Yekaterinburg the City of Demons because the entire city protested against the construction of the church in one of the most beloved neighborhoods. They wanted to replace a beautiful green public square with a large church. So everybody was out on the street, stood in that square, and didn't let anyone in. The city was labeled the City of Demons exactly because of this. People decided not to obey the wishes of the state or some wealthy individuals. And there is another reason. This is where Nikolai Romanov and his family were executed. This is the city where demons still walk. It showed its true face once again. The descendants of those same demons and devils are now continuing their dark gathering. That's exactly what Vladimir Solovyov said. All over the city, people started putting up stickers, posters, and graffiti mocking that phrase. They began wearing t-shirts with phrases City of Devils or City of Demons. And over the course of a few years, this scandalous slogan turned into a local brand. Even today, years after that incident, you can still see many references to that phrase. I would like to tell you about this city and show it to you. I used to watch a lot of videos about cities in other countries and decided to make something similar. In general, Yekaterinburg is considered one of the top 3 cities in Russia. First is obviously Moscow, second is St. Petersburg, and third is Yekaterinburg. Now you will see what one of the top 3 cities in Russia looks like. Now I'm going to show you the most valuable thing a city can have, something that cannot be recreated. No matter how much money you spend, it just wouldn't be the same, it would be fake. I'll show you the historical buildings of the city, what they look like and what condition they're in. The best buildings in the country are the old historic ones. They were built by businessmen, influential people, writers. These houses have soul, history, unlike the old grey Soviet apartment blocks. It seems like the state should either take care of these houses or give them to someone like a businessman who could turn them into a restaurant or a store. With the condition that they maintain and preserve the building. I know that programs like this exist in other countries. But here, the communists first stole these houses from their rightful owners and then just let them rot and collapse. I'm not exaggerating when I say 8 out of 10 old historic houses look like an apocalypse has happened. The other 2 out of 10 are either rare cases where the government takes care of them for some reason. Most likely, asking for a maintenance budget of 50 million rubles a year and spending maybe 5 million rubles on them. You can guess how that works. Corruption. Or those buildings somehow end up in private hands and are now used as small restaurants, shops, and so on. By the way, I've always noticed something. Old historic 2-story buildings, for example in New York, would often belong to someone like Paul McCartney, because he could buy a house like that from a previous owner and live in it. Same thing in Australia, same thing in UK. In countries where there were no communists. As a result, beautiful, elite buildings can still be in private hands, owned by some wealthy person who actually lives there. That doesn't happen in Russia. All these old buildings are either state-owned in 99% of cases, just standing there, resting and falling apart, or they're in private hands, but used for something like a restaurant at most. No one actually lives in these houses. No one can own as a home an old 2-story historic building in the center of the city. In general, no one can own houses like that because they all ended up in government's hands when communists took them away from the rightful owners. So no musician or actor or rich businessman can just buy a house like that and live in it, like people do in London or New York. Government-owned buildings are not sold into private hands. It's honestly a paradox how our authorities constantly talk about valuing our culture, traditions, and so on, but in reality they do absolutely nothing to preserve it. Even worse, it's often the case that construction companies connected to the authorities demolish these historic buildings, so they can build yet another massive apartment block with 250 units. They just bribe the officials, who then declare the building to be unsafe, even though it's not. There is also another very classic method. Let's say the historic building is still in decent condition and protected by law. You are not allowed to just demolish it and build something new on that spot. But for some reason, they cannot get away with calling it dangerous because it'll be too obvious in terms of corruption. Then something else happens. That solid, old stone building standing right in the city center suddenly burns down in the middle of the night. And just like that, the construction companies say, "Oh no! What a surprise! The place where we wanted to build a new apartment complex but couldn't because there was a protected historic building. What a coincidence that it just burned down!" And now they are free to build whatever they want, completely legally, and make billions of rubles from it. And they build these kinds of high-rise buildings, huge apartment blocks, often made from low-quality materials where you can hear absolutely everything. I live in one of those buildings. I rent an apartment. I can hear literally someone sneeze or cough, whether it's above or below me. I can hear my neighbor's alarm. Honestly, those kinds of buildings at least look somewhat decent from the outside, but when I walk among them, I feel kinda depressed, because I'm walking through places like this, not through New York townhouses, streets of London, or American suburbs. These buildings aren't the absolute worst. They make up maybe 15 to 20% of the city. But the real problem in the city of demons is that 80 to 90% of it looks like this. Gray, ugly, with weird architectural shapes, rusty, crumbling balconies. Every apartment has different windows. There are dark stains running down the facades of these gray bricks. There are no proper parking lots. Well, technically there are, but they used to be green lawns. And some particularly smart people, which I would say is most people, decided to park their cars on those lawns. And now those lawns have turned into patches of mud, which they then drive through and spread all over the neighborhood. That's exactly why wearing white shoes in Russia is a luxury, because your white shoes will stay white for maybe about 2 days. After that, they'll be covered in mud that you will never be able to wash off. There's one good thing about old neighborhoods. The trees have had time to grow. In the areas with new buildings, there are no trees. They literally ask for, let's say, 15 million rubles to plant trees. And then, I'm not exaggerating, they stick a literal stick into the ground and report to the government that a tree has been planted. And then in a year, it will grow into a mighty oak. But nothing happens. The stick just stands there for 10 years. It's not a tree, it's just a stick. In the summer, these old neighborhoods look at least okay, maybe a bit nice and cheerful at times. But can you imagine what it's like here in the winter? Dirt, grayness, cold, grey, dirty, slushy snow. And all of it makes you want one thing: to stay inside and watch something bright and entertaining. Something that, you could say, helps you escape into another world. What is this carpet? Why is there a carpet here? There is also another interesting phenomenon in our city. It's the sudden explosion of Asian stores. In the span of a few months, our city became filled with Asian shops selling snacks, sweet drinks, and other products. It's everywhere now. Asian culture, K-pop, anime. It has become really dominant here. Every day I see school kids dressed as they live in Tokyo, not in some industrial city in the Ural Mountains. There are always posters about anime, concerts, or meetups, and honestly, I really like it. There are tons of anime kids here. If you go to the city center, you'll see that 6 out of 10 teenagers look like they've been teleported straight out of anime. Honestly, there are probably more of them here than in Japan itself. So what people here actually do for fun? They go to shopping malls. Imagine living in a country, in a city, where the only form of entertainment is going to the mall. There's nothing else. There are no cool public spaces like I've seen in New York. There I was walking through Highline Park, Central Park. Just walking around the city was already interesting. In Russia, shopping malls are the center of life, especially for teenagers. They leave the house and go to the mall, take a cab from the trash, or if they're rich, they actually buy one from Burger King. It's the only place you can get free refills in Russia. Then they sit around in a group of 7, share one small cup of soda, and scroll through TikTok on their phones. It feels like this air conditioner was taken as a trophy from Germany in 1945. We also have this one fancy street built by a local billionaire, basically the guy who owns the city. And this street attracts a bunch of girls who come here just to take photos. It's literally the only street in the city that looks even remotely luxurious, and for me that's always been a sign of how beautiful the city really is. Why do I think it's beautiful? Because this one street 200 meters long, the only nice looking one in the whole city, and people go there to take glamorous photos. That alone says so much. They act like it's something amazing. They even ride an hour and a half in a rusty bus that's 30 years old just to reach those 200 meters. Take a few pictures, post them on Instagram with captions like, "Look how beautiful our city is. Americans and Europeans should be jealous." And they don't even realize that a small, clean, beautiful street is just a regular neighborhood in most of Europe or the US. Nice houses, beautiful trees, good pavement. That's what a village in Germany looks like. That's what a small town in Austria looks like. I've been to Charlotte, North Carolina, and random streets in Charlotte, just totally average ones, look exactly like that fancy 200-meter street here. And Charlotte isn't a top 3 cities in the USA, just a regular one. Subway sandwich, little one, $6. Big one, $8. Look at this. Familiar scene? Yeah, that's the stadium. I've seen this photo on Reddit a million times. People making fun of how stupid the design is, how badly it was done. Well, that's here, in the city where I live now. The stadium is right here. It's a symbol of what things used to be years ago, when Russia hasn't been yet isolated from the rest of the normal world. When the world saw Russia as a more or less functioning country with problems, sure, but a part of a global community. And now the stadium just stands there alone. Nothing happens there anymore. Some local teams play sometimes, but nobody cares. And honestly, that's how I would describe life here in general. Some local version of life that no one really cares about. There is also a lot of street art in the city. It's considered almost the street art capital of Russia. And it's not just random drawings. There are a lot of political, even opposition-style graffiti. For example, one mural is called Soviet Dustpan Staples, or in Russian, Совковые скрепы. It's a pretty disrespectful name for the USSR. The word savok sounds like Soviet. It also means dustpan, the thing you use to scoop up garbage from the floor. So people who dislike the Soviet Union use this word to mock it, basically calling the USSR a trash collector. And skryepy, that's what our great and glorious leader Vladimir Putin calls spiritual bonds. Things that are supposed to spiritually unite us as a nation. And when you combine the word skryepy with savok, the dustpan, you get a pretty clear idea of what the graffiti is saying. Or take this other piece of graffiti, I even filmed it myself. I blurred out the names of the channels being shown because the person in the trench coat is holding them like they're committing some kind of crime. Those are 2 opposition channels, which of course are now officially labeled as extremist in Russia. I blurred out the names of those channels because literally just showing their logos can get you thrown in prison for several years. You can also see a cool soup can installation. It's made out of some kind of containers, and to the left, a giant can of condensed milk. I actually like this one. But most modern art, like those random abstract graffiti pieces, I wouldn't really say they make the city look any better. About the economy, the average salary in this city right now is about $400, maybe $500. Meanwhile, renting a 1-bedroom apartment in any district costs at least 50,000 rubles per month, which is more than the average monthly income. Clothes, electronics, and other essentials here costs the same, or yes, you heard that right, even more than in the US or UK. People often send me receipts from their purchases abroad, and I can confidently say that most of the prices I see in the UK, Europe, or the US are 30 to 40% cheaper than what we pay here in Russia. And I don't think I need to explain the differences in salaries between the West and Russia. So, that's the video about the city that's considered one of the top 3 cities in Russia. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and leave any comment to help the YouTube algorithm show this video to more people. You can also support me by sending a donation. It's especially important right now because I might have to move out of this apartment soon, and it's going to cost a lot of money. You can send a donation to my Bitcoin wallet by scanning the code on the screen or by using the address in the description. You can donate through Boosty using a bank card. Just click send and log in with YouTube. Or you can donate via Streamlabs using PayPal. Just enter your name, click donate and log in with YouTube button. I also appreciate YouTube thanks. Thank you so much. And of course, don't forget to follow me on YouTube and every other social media in the description of my channel.